Hey, what's good? Welcome to another episode of the Shaker Heights. Experiences may vary. Good Sunday. Good Sunday to you all. Here we are. Well, the hits keep coming. I'd like to bring to the stage the other funky drummer, Dave Richman.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
Yes.
How's it going?
That's quite an intro, Gabe.
Oh, thank you. I try.
Yeah. Very flattering. Thank you. I try too.
Yes. Oh man. Well, thank you for taking time out there in my beloved Brooklyn.
My pleasure.
To come on board and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, how you
coming
doing,
from
man?
the Linfield stop? We didn't mention.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
Rapid stop.
I think.
Yeah, it was.
Linfield Rapid Stop. We're still having writ issues with the Rapid Stop there with the RTA about we're having mice issues up in there and electrical.
I usually would just walk. Instead of taking the Rapid, I would just walk to school.
Yeah, that was a nice walk down Parkland.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good. So, man, tell us. Are you like several generations in as a Shaker person? You know, like the moms and the dad and the
Oh no. I was you mean the story of how I came to live there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love telling this story. So, my mom is from the Bronx. My dad was from Philly.
Oh,
and he went to Cornell Medical School, which was actually on the Upper East Side in New York City. My mom worked at as a lab technician at Sloan Kettering.
Okay.
And they met up there, had me. I was born in Manhattan. And a few months after I was born, my dad graduated from medical school and said to my mom, "We're moving to Cleveland." and she said, "No, we're not." I said, we'll just move to Cleveland. I got a fellowship at a hospital in Cleveland. It's for 3 years. We'll just move for the 3 years of the fellowship. And my grandparents, will put a down payment on a house for us.
Win-win.
So my mom said, okay, just for the 3 years. That was what, 60 years ago, 58 years ago. She's still there. And I live in New York again.
Wow.
So, and now when she comes back here, obviously she's like a tourist.
Yeah.
So, we moved there from my dad's fellowship at Metro General. I mean, Shaker, I don't know why they chose Shaker. Obviously, like a well integrated suburb, white picket fences and whatnot. And I thought it was an awesome place to grow up and then leave. And I always tell people that it was the perfect place to grow up. But now that I'm saying that, I was wondering, what's the name of this podcast? Experience may vary.
Yeah.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, you want to take a stab? Take a stab.
Well, as we go and tell our different tales, we find out. Well, especially judging from the book from Laura Meckler.
Yeah.
That was the impetus for us doing this. That was the final nail, I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
We had been talking about doing something like this. And we wanted to tell our story. And there's a class system in Shaker Heights. We lived on one side of the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people lived on the other side of the tracks. And then there were, especially in the book, what we weren't really aware of it is the tracks, let's put it this way, of how people moved within the Shaker Heights school system.
Huh.
according to classes in terms of level 4, level 5, and how a lot of the parents, especially the Black parents, were trying to get their kids in the upper level classes. And didn't know how much of a struggle it was until we dove into the book. And then in doing the podcast, we're finding out so many different layers to the Shaker experience.
I can imagine.
This integration experiment, if you will. And then just coming upon our 40th reunion, which was this summer, it was just perfect timing to do this. And with the political environment that's going on now, and our experience and, heading off or dealing with the integration, I won't say problem, but challenge. I thought this was a good time to put on this show.
Okay. I figured as much. Cool. Well, thanks again for having me on here.
Yeah.
And having my experience, if I can remember it.
Well,
remember what you want.
Okay.
Leave the rest behind.
All right.
Yeah. So I remember you. You have a brother, right? Was it
Michael?
Michael.
Right. He was like tall, right?
Younger than me, but bigger.
Okay.
And we were are really close in age. I mean, we are 15 months apart.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, really close in age, and he was one grade behind us.
Okay.
Because I mean, I think age-wise, he should have been 2 years behind us. But as the story goes, when I started going to pre-K or kindergarten or wherever, and like leaving to go to school every day, he would get so sad and he would cry and throw a temper tantrum that I was leaving and leaving him. So my mom got him in a year early. That's the story. That's the story. But he lives in Denver.
Okay.
And he's like a computer guy.
Okay.
He's doing great. I actually just saw him a few weeks ago. I went out there for my nephew's bar mitzvah.
Oh, nice.
And we had a great time. So he's really good. I'll tell him that you said hi.
Yeah, if he wants to come on the show, we'll have him on the show.
Does he still have that beautiful hair? I remember that beautiful part, and
You're talking about the Bono Sting hair?
Yeah,
yes.
And the button-up shirt. Yeah,
that's what Rob Barrick used to call him, Bono Sting, because he did have great hair. No, it's kind of like it's like this, but grayer than mine now.
Okay.
But he still looks good. He's still a handsome dude, handsome vital guy.
Shout out to Rob Barrick.
I
think he left a comment on Facebook, like you and who else? Was it Ben? Former bandmates?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was Active Congress.
Okay.
And there were a whole bunch of bands there, and I know you guys have covered some of them in other podcasts with.
Let's take this on a linear track, because I want to get the history together.
All right. Well, hopefully I can remember.
We're building it. Okay.
Okay.
So, what elementary school did you attend? It seems like Lomond, right?
Yes, Lomond. Went to Lomond. I guess first grade through sixth, and we lived, I guess, right around the block from there. Yeah. And walked to school every day, came home for lunch.
Classic.
There was a I mean, it's still there. There was a pond, a man-made pond in the schoolyard there that they would fill with water, and then it would freeze in the winter, and people played hockey and ice skated on that pond.
Yeah.
And I had some trouble, because I would always want to walk on the pond before the ice was thick enough. And so I fell into that cold water more than once, but lived so close that I could just, run home soaking wet in ice cold water and not suffer hypothermia. But yeah, Lomond, great
Yeah.
memories. But that, you know, that seems like friggin' 100 years ago,
Yeah.
and it damn near. So yeah, Lomond, and then Byron.
Well, who did you hang out with as a kid?
Okay,
Who were
so
your buddies?
my buddies. So I met my best friend. My best friend in elementary school was Tim Elliott.
Okay.
Because Tim actually lived on Glencairn too, on my street, our
Mhm.
street. And we sat next to each other in third grade and became best friends. And then he moved to the other side of the tracks, literally.
Oh.
He moved to Malvern, or the Malvern neighborhood, and he went to Malvern, like, I guess maybe 5th or 6th grade, and we still stayed buddies. But I mean, it was like another country, you know, like
Yeah.
you go from one elementary school to another. It was like all different people and different vibe in that neighborhood. It was, yeah. So we were still buddies, but he lived in another country, or he may well as have.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were the starter home district. I remember Todd Schechter came
Yeah.
to visit. I don't know who he was visiting, but he's like, "Man, these houses are so small. They're so small."
Maybe that's why my parents moved there or bought it when they came from here, the starter home neighborhood.
So with were you guys like into music at that stage?
We got
What?
into it.
Okay.
We sort of got into it together. I raided my mom's record collection. My mom had a really good record collection, with like Beatles and the Who and James Taylor, like all the 70s stuff.
Yeah.
Elton John.
Okay.
And so I like, you know, got in there and, you know, was sort of hooked. And that was like right around the time, like when I got into her record collection and started listening to it. That was when I got fascinated by the drums. I mean, it was like that,
Hmm.
like the drums and the drumming, like, grabbed me right away on all those records. And I
Wrong.
don't know. I mean, like maybe Tim, like, it was the same thing. I think his parents had a stereo and vinyl, and he got into the same stuff, but he obviously started on guitar. And
Hmm.
so we played together. I guess we formed a band in 6th grade,
Oh.
two man
Okay.
band. And I don't remember what it was called, but I mean, he was really good, like right off the bat. He
Hmm.
was like, he was a really good guitar player, even as a beginner. He really took to it. And so we had our 2-man band, and then we got into Kiss. I mean, we were huge Kiss fans
Mhm.
together. And you know, thick and thin. I mean, like eventually we when we got into Byron and started getting into other bands, other music. I remember he would call me. I listened to like an Aerosmith record, and he got mad at me, and he called me a disloyal Kiss fan. You know, if we listened to anything other than Kiss, or stuck a poster on our wall by anyone other than Kiss, we were a disloyal Kiss fan.
Oh, damn.
But then what happened was, so once we got to Byron junior high, he was scouted by other musicians, because like he showed up there and it was like, okay, this kid is really good. I mean, he's only 12 years old, but
Mm-hmm.
he plays like a 17-year-old. And
Wow.
so there was this other group, Attic, of these older dudes. I think they were in 8th grade or maybe 9th grade. And they grabbed him. They grabbed him.
Oh,
They took him, and I was devastated. Devastated that he left our 2-man band. But he was really a man about it. Like he like, you know, he came to me and like face to face and just said, I'm gonna go with these guys. They're really good. And I mean, I was devastated, but I really admired him for that. He really, like, when he left
mm-hmm.
to go with them, he did it in a very, very adult way. Now that I remember.
Yeah.
So what was the lineup in Attic at that point? And I'm thinking is this 79, 80, 81? What
This
years were these?
It's probably 78, 79. So it was Eric Rosenthal on drums, Matt Kirsch on guitar. I think it was just the two of them. And they got Tim. They didn't have a bass player. So they just played as a trio for a while, 2 guitars and drums.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric sang and Tim sang too. He was a great singer too. And eventually they got Eric Smith on bass, Steve Smith's brother,
Yeah.
who was like, I mean, that dude was like, I mean, we were in 7th grade. Eric and Matt were in 8th or 9th, probably 8th. But Eric Smith was like a junior in high school, and we were like, that's like a man.
Mm-hmm.
But they got him.
Yeah.
And then Denny joined, and it was like a super group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from a historical reference, okay,
Yeah.
that was a key point in my musical taste development. And I've mentioned it here on the podcast before.
Mhm.
First time my musical taste crossed over was at the Byron, and John Denny talked about it, or he remembered it, was at a talent show at Byron.
Okay.
And they played More Than a Feeling.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was
You
a
remember that?
Showstopper.
I could not believe it. My life was changed
You know what?
permanently right
God,
after that.
It's so funny. I remembering that. You know what I remember? Like you reminding me of that. I remember the cheer when they finished that song. The cheer, it was like a hysterics. People were like flipping out at how good it was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It sounded just like the record.
Yep.
So were there other bands that you were battling, or what? Okay, so now your buddy's gone. So what did you do? Did you look for new bandmates? Were you jamming with other people?
I got my brother to replace Tim in our 2-man band. And so he played guitar as well, and he was pretty good. Not as good as Tim. Tim was great. So I got Mike to play, and he was not as into it as Tim was. He was not as into being a musician and playing as Tim was. So I had to bribe him to practice, to jam. And he would be like, I'd be like, hey, let's go down to the basement and rock some tunes or something. Let's learn something. And he'd be like, I don't want to. Come on. And I'd be like, dude, come on, just like. And he would think, like, what can I do to all right, do my paper route for me. And so I would do it. So I had to like pay him or bribe him to jam.
Wow.
And so that I had I don't remember the name of our band either, but and then we got a third man, Chris Radford. Do you ever
right.
him?
He lived right around the corner.
Yeah, like behind me.
Exactly.
And we got him to play second guitar, and he was pretty weak, pretty weak on guitar. but we needed the needed some sound filling in there.
So what songs were you playing? Were you writing your own stuff, or were you still doing
Okay,
Kiss? Or
so
what were
we
you doing?
we played Joe Walsh,
Wow.
another Ohioan.
Yeah, Kent State.
Because the guitar teacher that they all studied with, that my brother studied with, and Tim Elliott studied with, was this guy. I don't remember his name, but he taught at the Dick Lurie guitar shop on Cedar in Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
He was like a protege or a buddy of Joe Walsh. So
Wow.
so he was like, Joe Walsh, everything Joe Walsh does, I'm going to teach you Joe Walsh. So we played Joe Walsh and James Gang and all that Ohio stuff, which is great, like Ohio rock, Cleveland rock, still great.
Yeah,
and so that's what we did.
Did you pick up any other instruments back then, or did you just concentrate specifically on drums?
All about drums, and still am. Still am. 50 years later, I still am. So, I mean, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but, it's like one thing, not the one of the things that like has stayed with me through my whole life. Recently, another bandmate from high school, this dude from Cleveland Heights, sent me a picture of us playing at a gig in it's like some basement in Cleveland Heights in ninth grade, and I posted it to Instagram, and I said, 1980, when I was way more badass than I am now, and our classmate Drew Landers,
yes, shout out to Drew,
replied and said, "No, you're still the same. You're still the same." And he's right. I am. I haven't changed. I'm the same. I do the same things that I did 40, 50 years ago. I play drums. I ride a bike. Yeah. That's it.
You always seem like you're at a higher pace than most people. You're very determined, and
I gotta move. It's all about the kinetic motion, man. I gotta move.
Rhythm.
When I can't move anymore, then I'm done. So I've got to just keep that going.
So we've had all these musicians on. So what was the landscape? When did you start to see all these musicians and around Byron or the surrounding areas? Who were you seeing, and what did you see that was going on? And were you influenced by any of that?
Yeah. So I mean, when we got to junior high, and it's not called junior high there anymore now, right?
It's
called
school.
Middle school. Yeah, that's what they call it. That's when. Yeah, that's when Tim left and joined Attic and met all the dudes, like John Denny, who you had on there, and Danny Glick, who became another buddy, who was an awesome drummer. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he still plays. I mean, I haven't
I know
spoken to him.
He's a realtor. I checked out.
Yeah, Chicago, right?
Yeah, he's like a high-end realtor, it seems like. Love to have him on.
I got there. He was like, he blew me away. I mean, like when we, like the first time I heard him play, I mean, that was the thing about getting to junior high. It's like, found people who were better, like way better. I mean, there were a lot of them. He was great. I gotta jog the memory loose, but
Did you know this kid named John Meadows? He came a couple of years after you. Did you know him?
Oh yeah, I did. So he was like, was that his name? John Meadows?
Yeah,
it was
John Meadows. Yeah,
John Meadows. He was big in the marching band and the school band, and I remember I never did. Okay, I never did the school band after junior high. I never did that in high school. But Shaker had a pretty kick-ass marching band.
Yes, they did.
And the drum section was awesome. And Meadows was like headed it up. And I remember like I went in there one day. I was like, I'm going to join the marching band. And I went in for like day one of rehearsal, and they like threw all this like music in front of us. I'm like, all right, here, play this. And in Meadows, I remember he just like sight read it. He just like, he'd never seen it before, but just played it without ever having seen it before. Like, I'd played the shit out of it. And it was great. He was an amazing snare drummer. But in junior high, that's when I also met Todd Schechter, as he was known then, and his brother Lewis.
Yeah.
They both played drums.
I didn't know that.
And we became drum buddies, and their stepbrother,
Bob
Griffin, who was like, he was like the one punk rocker. He was into punk rock, like really like edgy and he was really outside of the norm. And I ended up joining his punk band. It's like another thing that I haven't thought of for 40 years.
See what happens?
But I actually
back the layers.
I just went back to that memory because a friend of mine just published an interview in a guitar magazine with another Cleveland musician, Doug Gillard. He didn't go to Shaker. And like Bob Griffin went on to start his own record label, which is still going.
Okay.
It's and I think he's still based in Cleveland. It's called Scat Records. And they put out like all the early Guided by Voices stuff and a bunch of other punk stuff. So he, I played in his band for all of 4 months. But we played one gig at the Well. Did you guys talk about the Well with anybody?
Yeah, it's come up a few times over at that
yeah.
church. Yeah.
Legendary.
What was, let me ask you this. It always, I had some tangency with Bob, and thinking back, his intellect was he was way on another level, just consciously.
Yep.
Than he was like a grown up.
Yep.
A man among boys. And he was like, and I was thinking about who he reminded me of. He was like Bowie and who's the guy? Henry Rollins, kind of mixed. Would you share that? I mean, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. He turned me on to in the short amount of time. So I joined his band, and they were called the Decapitators. and I don't remember how it came to be. I mean, because he was Todd and Lewis's stepbrother, but it was kind of weird, like the families had merged. Like there was maybe some tension there between the brothers and the stepbrothers. And I was more friends. I mean, I was buddies with Todd and Lewis. And when Bob like asked me to join his band, I think like, Todd and Lewis were like, "What the fuck are you thinking? What are you doing?" But I did it.
Yeah,
I did it. And I only played with him for a few months. We played one gig, but Bob turned me on to so much stuff. He was like, it was, and I still remember like there was like all this like music and fanzines and literature. Yeah, he was like like a man among boys, and like
he really was
like so much like legendary stuff that he turned me on to just in those short months that I played in the band. And what happened was so we rehearsed for like 3 months, 4 months, and we had our big gig at the Well. And at the gig, this other dude like cornered me. This big dude who I didn't know cornered me and basically like bullied me into joining his band. He was went to Heights, and his name was Carl Jefferson, and he was like 6 feet tall, and he was like, "You're gonna play in my band. We need you. We need you to play in my band. You're not gonna play in this band anymore. You're gonna play in my band. We play Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith and like rock stuff, and you're gonna play with us." And I was like, okay. And I did.
Peter Grant.
Yeah. And that was a story that I forgot about too, until the other guy, Toby Vinar, who was the guitar player, sent me this picture of us playing in someone's basement in Cleveland Heights. He's like, "Remember you got bullied into playing with us?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
So at that point, was there your career path or what have you was always going to be music? Did you see
always
yourself?
was. It always was.
No matter
I mean,
what.
yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I thought like when we got into high school and it came time to start thinking about college, I had heard of Berklee College of Music
Mhm.
in Boston. I'd heard of it because I don't know, some drummers that I liked went there, like the drummer for Journey, Steve Smith, went there, and so I thought, yeah, that's where I want to go. And another Chris Horvath.
Yeah, I remember Chris Horvath. Yeah.
Went to Berklee, and I mean, he was a couple of years older than us. I mean, he was there, and I remember I reached out to him and asked if he would like tell me about it. And I remember he came over to our house. I mean, I remember him rode his bike over to our house with all of the course catalog and all the literature, and it was like an outreach. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it. And my mom was like, okay, yeah, do it. Go to Berklee. And so it was the only place I applied.
Wow.
Applied to one college, Berklee, got in and went. And I even graduated.
How many kids from Shaker? John Denny went. You went. Did
Kerwin Kane?
Did Quentin Rubin go? Did Quentin go too?
I thought
shit, he did. That's right.
So how many people are you bumping into from Shaker while you're
none? I didn't bump into those guys at all. It was not that. I mean, Berklee, it was big, but not that big. But I don't know. I don't remember. I never crossed paths with Quentin. And I didn't even really know Kerwin. Yeah, not at all. Not at all. I mean, I like ran and played with like a completely different group.
So this new band that you joined in with, that you got bullied into in Cleveland Heights, what was that like? What was that experience like?
Okay, so that band was called Delirious, and I think they actually, like, before I met them, before I joined, before Carl bullied me into joining, I think that there was not they didn't have a good reputation. Like, the word was that they sucked. They sucked, like, compared to Attic, and compared to, I mean, I can't remember who else.
Haven
wasn't around at that point. But the word was like, oh, Delirious, they sucked. But I joined anyway, and they didn't suck. And I think they actually then changed the name once I got in there. But that was like, but they were a Heights band. So it was very, very different vibe. Very.
In what way? Tell me. Like, were you playing at their parties, and where were your
totally
gigs?
different gigs? Like, everything was in Cleveland Heights, and like basement parties. We played at some church, and in my memory, the Heights, the audiences. Let's just say the audiences, the kids.
Yeah.
The Heights audiences, maybe this was because they were older than me as well, but the Heights audiences were way more drunk. There were more drugs and drinking. And that actually was like sort of intimidating to me, because I was like, my brother and I we were good boys.
Yeah.
We didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
And so the gigs and the people, the hangers on and the band members themselves, everybody was like smoking weed and drinking, and I was like, I'm just gonna, play drums. But and that was my thing, that was how I like was in there. And so like my playing was, I was pretty good for high school.
Yeah.
I think I played like at a high enough level to hang with these older seeming bandmates and audience members. So that was my memory, like.
Did you have to keep your shaker identity quiet, or did it really matter?
I don't think so. I think they were okay. As long as I, hit the drums hard. And as long as I could, seriously, as long as I could like play those, those John Bonham licks and rock out, they were like, he's cool. It's all right.
So who you talked about some of the drummers that you looked up to? How were your musical tastes evolving, and what drummers were you moving towards? Like, you played punk music, so I suppose you're influenced by different punk drummers, or Stuart Copeland, and I hear John Bonham. And where were some of the other influences that you were having?
Okay, Bonham was like John Bonham and Neil Peart, and like the classic 70s rock drummers were like all my gods when I and still are. They still are. When I joined the punk band, I had to find a lot of the drummers in the punk bands weren't that good, at least compared to like Bonham. But I glommed onto the drummer for the Ramones, Tommy Ramone, Marky Ramone, who, again, like that's amazing technique. I don't have a drumstick here. I would show you, but the speed and intensity that a punk drummer has to play at was impressive. So, had to sort of to change my playing there, but it was all rock, all rock to me. It was all about like just playing whatever the song was.
What was one of your favorite songs to play?
Punk songs, like, or anything?
Or anything, like in particular with like this Cleveland Heights group, because they were more rock focused.
So I still think about this. I still remember the Cleveland Heights group. They worshiped Zeppelin. Yes. And so we played a lot of Zeppelin, and there was a version of Dazed and Confused from The Song Remains the Same that was a half hour long. So you try and tackle this version, and you'd be playing for a half hour.
Wow.
And so that was like the real tour de force.
Yeah.
I remember practicing that in Toby Vinar's living room, which coincidentally is weird. It's like this kid in Cleveland Heights who lived in the house that he grew up in is now like right around the corner from where my mom lives now. So
that's crazy.
Every time I go by there, I walk by this house. It's like, that's where I played Dazed and Confused all the way through the first time.
Drums.
Yeah, so I've got a question. It just came to mind. I've discussed this with Gabe. I remember the summer of 1980 being at Thornton Park, and I didn't have anybody that I hung around with, but I just happened to be there. And it was either, maybe it was you that was there, but it might have been you. It might have been Tim. And you guys were talking about John Bonham dying, and that you had gotten tickets to see Led Zeppelin for that tour.
Okay, so So Bonham died in September of 1980. So I don't know, would we have still been at Thornton in September? Maybe.
We're just hanging out.
We were
Yeah.
hanging out.
Yeah.
We weren't swimming.
No. No,
Um,
it was on the sled hill, and I never spent time there, but I just happened to be there that day. And I wasn't a Led Zeppelin fan, didn't know anything about them at that point in time. I was a Bee Gees fan, by the way.
Same. Despite the fact that disco sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a huge Bee Gees fan too, and they had a great drummer as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was that you? Could that have been you there, or
Absolutely.
do you remember that? Did you have tickets or were you planning to buy tickets?
Here's the story with the tickets. If I remember, we did not get tickets because they sold out immediately. So Zeppelin was going to tour that fall. They were going to tour in the States fall 1980. I guess they hadn't played live for years, and then they came back and they played like a European tour that summer, and then they were going to tour the States. And it was like this, it was almost too good to be true. This is a band that like almost like doesn't even exist anymore. We didn't get tickets because it sold out.
And
really
who was we?
When I say we, I mean like my brother and my mom and me, because my mom took us to the shows.
Were you in the Belkin Club?
Not yet. If we had been in the Belkin Club, we would have gotten tickets. We would have gotten tickets. We were not in the Belkin Club at that point. We had to stand online or call.
Wait a minute. Isn't Todd Schechter related to Belkin?
Todd figures into this story. And he said he was going to be listening to this live stream.
Pipe in somewhere.
Type in the comments, ask questions.
We didn't get tickets. We didn't get tickets because they sold out too quickly. But Todd was not in the Belkin family, but Todd's dad worked in radio.
Yeah.
So he could get tickets for everything. And I think you know what it was? Okay, here it is. Okay, so this was 1980. This is right when I joined Bob's band, the Decapitators.
Wow.
See the memory. I'm jogging your memory.
You are
man.
jogging it. So here's what happened. So I joined the punk band, and Todd was pissed off at me. He was like, "Yo, what are you joining this punk band, man? You're not. What do you like hate rock now? You're into punk. You know what? I'm not taking you to see Led Zeppelin just because of that. I got tickets. I'm not taking you because you're into punk now."
Oh, damn.
But then
excommunicated.
But then I was. But then Bonham died, and we were really bummed. We were really. I mean, it was like a horrible tragedy. I can't believe I'm laughing.
Well, and wasn't there? I'm sorry, cut you off because it makes me think. I got that confused with the AC/DC drummer. Didn't he pass away?
No, the singer, Bon Scott.
Singer, that was the singer.
Yeah, one of the greats.
Yeah.
But then I remember when Bonham died, and we were just devastated. Despite the fact I'm laughing, we were devastated. And I remember Todd was like, "Oh, this sucks, man." He's like, "I was going to take you to the show. I was just messing around with you when I said I wasn't going to take you."
Playing with your emotions.
I can't believe that.
Were you guys? Were you and Todd competitive? Were you competitive with other drummers, or were your styles different that you respected each other?
Todd and I were we were buddies. We still are. We're still to this day drum buddies. And no, I mean I wasn't competitive with him, and we helped each other.
I mean, in a good way.
Yeah.
I don't. At that age, I'm wondering what that's like.
I would say I was competitive. I was competitive with Glick. Like we were buddies too, really good friends. But and it's not like we were going for the same gigs, the same band. We weren't trying to play in the same band. Like, I'm going to get this gig. I'm going to get this band. But and I don't know if he saw it this way. He probably did. Todd's he's messaging me.
Was Glick in a band? He always seemed like the rah-rah kind of guy, and his musical taste. I remember him talking about Spyro Gyro.
He could play jazz. He
Yeah.
he could play the shit out of jazz. And man, he had such great chops. And I just remember like, man, like I gotta work on my chops because like to play like him. So yeah, felt competitive with him, but he was great. Everybody was. I mean, that was the thing about Shaker. I don't know. I mean, if other high schools were like this, I mean, just like the level of musicianship for like everybody was like. I mean, like Attic. I mean, those dudes were like they were like pros, man. That was like they were like a pro level band. I mean, at least
what do you attribute that to? The music education, or what was?
I don't think it was just like the talent, just natural talent, like the natural talent. And I mean, what I say is like Shaker was such a great place to grow up. I mean, for me, I mean, we were like, it seemed like I was encouraged, like, dude, like you do you, man. Like you want to play the drums, like do it.
Yeah.
You want like there were a lot of kids who were like artists. Like it seemed like it was the kind of place where you could like be who you wanted to.
It was an arts high school. Like I've said
Yeah.
before, I compare it. I have a friend that went to the Baltimore School of the Arts, and he went to school with Tupac and
Really?
Will Smith's wife, whatever her name is,
Jada.
And there are a lot of people, and the conversations we have are on par.
Yeah.
With the talent that came out of his high school.
Yeah. I mean, I like coming out of Shaker and like being like encouraged to like, do what I wanted to do, and seeing like a lot of my friends and classmates and people that I knew like also like growing up and growing out, it kind of made me realize like, well, not everybody has it like that, and I, thinking about my upbringing there. I mean, I what I say is so my father died when I was 10.
Okay.
The guy who moved us to Shaker, he died in like 5 years later, and like my mom's still there. But what I say is like, aside from my father getting sick and dying, like I had the perfect childhood. I was never scared or like felt traumatized and that made me like think like that's what I want to like give to my kids. Like a kid deserves like to do what he or she wants, to be whomever they want to be. A kid should have an upbringing like that. They should never be scared. They should always be encouraged and feel safe, because that's how I felt in Shaker. So I've tried to give my kids that.
The three of you, your brother and your mom, always seemed very tight knit, and
we were.
I just kept moving forward. That was my perception.
Yep.
Let me ask.
Was.
What was I going to ask you? So what concerts were you going to? A lot of musical movements were going on with the new. Like, what were some of the memorable ones that you saw?
Okay, so, and you name it. I mean, like, went to every Belkin show from,
Was your mom taking you to the ones that you couldn't get in, that you were too young to get into at the Agora?
No.
I needed moms to get me into the
Agora. Never did that. These were all like the Coliseum and Music Hall and like the shows of that ilk. And so it would either be my mom. So it was always Tim Elliott and me, and sometimes my brother, or maybe Chris Radford or someone else. And it was either my mom would take us or Dan Elliott, Tim's dad,
Mm.
would take us. Saw some great ones, man. Saw Queen with Freddie
Wow.
Mercury. Actually, I think Denny was at that one. I think my mom took my brother and John Denny and me. Saw AC/DC with Bon Scott. There's a great story about when we went to the World Series of Rock at Cleveland Stadium.
Yeah.
With AC/DC. Who was it? AC/DC, Thin Lizzy, Journey, Ted Nugent, and Aerosmith. And this is, I think, 1979. I mean, we were like 11, 12 years old.
I can smell the beer.
Oh my God. And
Stadium.
We were in a loge. We were in the company loge for Tim's dad's law firm. So we get in this loge and we couldn't see shit. It was like partial view. So we were like, we're gonna go over to that loge. So we like climbed over like 40 loges to get to the loge that was in the middle. We were trespassing, basically.
Yeah, basically.
And Dan Elliott was like, I'm just gonna look the other way. But we ended up getting busted by like security, and we were like all afraid that like Dan Elliott was gonna get fired because we like trespassed from his loge. But who else? Yeah.
Were you seeing any of the new wave bands? Were you?
U2, the 1983, the War Tour. I still remember that.
Was that at the Agora or was that
Music Hall?
Music. Oh, was that Music Hall? Okay.
Yeah, didn't go in any clubs. Didn't go in any clubs. Yeah, I don't know. Did
you see the Police?
Police Synchronicity. Still remember that one. You know, it was always like all those Coliseum shows. I just remember like the drive. You know, like you got to drive. Like, I mean, in my memory, it was like an hour away. You got to drive. Like, the middle of nowhere, like to see Ted Nugent. You know,
that's when the shirts. That's when the paraphernalia or the merch cost more than the tickets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still have any of your shirts? Because they're
I wish. Man. I wish. Well, but here's one. Here's a story. We went to see Aerosmith. We went to see Aerosmith on one of their sucky tours. They had an album out called Night in the Ruts.
Yeah, right in the nuts.
Yeah. Well, so that's what the shirt said.
Yeah.
So the album was called Night in the Ruts, but the shirt had like the N and the R crossed out and reversed.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And what you would do is you go to the show, you'd get the shirt, and then you'd wear it to school the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother wore the shirt and got sent to the principal's office for wearing a shirt that said "right" in the nuts. And I assure you, this is the only time Michael Richman ever got in trouble in school.
I remember kids getting in trouble. You couldn't wear T-shirts with beer logos on it, and that was very popular back then.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I remember that too.
And I have a distinct memory with Phil Burkhardt. I remember Candy O was a big album when we were in junior high. Was that influential to you? I mean, do you remember that? That just came
absolutely.
Off the top of my head.
Love the Cars.
And I didn't know that Rick Ocasek started his career in the Cleveland area, Youngstown,
did he?
Cleveland area.
I did not know that either. Wow.
And did you know the Doors story?
Oh my God. No, let me hear it.
So I was querying. I just found out just by happenstance. And I wonder if that's why John Wayne painted Jim Morrison, the mural at Shaker.
Oh, yeah.
Well, originally when the Doors came to Cleveland, guess where they were supposed to perform?
Music Hall? John Carroll University?
No, Shaker Heights football field.
Wow.
And it was a Belkin production.
Okay.
And they sold out too quickly and they didn't have the facility to hold them. So they went to Public Hall. And if you search the internet, you'll find that story. And we also have a commemorative shirt stealing the ad from the Belkin posting of that, and there's a T-shirt that you could buy from our merch website.
Oh, I'll check that out.
Commemorate.
Cool. Yeah. All right.
So, okay, we're moving from high school. So,
Yes.
were you in a band? Were you thinking about staying home? Or were you
No,
going
I was
to...
all about I'm going to Berkeley, I'm leaving. And yeah, so I did. I mean, it was like, yeah, it seemed like that's what everybody was doing. Everybody was leaving, right? You
Right.
graduate, you go to college and you leave. And so I did, and I went to Boston, and I one thing that I like to say, and I was actually I actually there's some Cleveland people here in Brooklyn that I still hang out with, not from Shaker, not that we knew,
Okay.
but people that I have since met. Is that dog barking on my end? Is that
No,
my dog?
it's my side. It's our
Okay.
dog. Is it
That's all right.
too bothersome?
No,
I
I like it.
I can
I
have
like
him
it.
shot or something. Go ahead.
I learned, so when I left Cleveland and went to Boston to go to college, I learned two things. One, local sports teams could win.
Mhm.
Two, the sun could shine in the wintertime.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Never did in Cleveland.
No, we get that
but
sad.
I
Those
know.
gray skies,
I know.
steel
Yep.
gray skies of Cleveland, Ohio.
From November to April,
Yeah.
gray the whole time.
I didn't know what that really was called until years later. You know, the seasonal what's it?
Seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah, affective disorder. Yeah,
Don't people in Seattle suffer from the same thing?
probably worse. Probably
That's
worse.
what I thought.
I've never
But
been
anyway,
there. Yeah.
so who
What's
did you run into? Who did you?
In Boston, I just made like a, made a whole new life there. I mean, like none of those Shaker dudes who went to Berkeley, I didn't play with them, didn't hang out with them, never saw them. So it was like everything new.
One thing about Boston, especially at that time, late 80s, Boston, I think about Roxbury, and they were having a lot of their integration issues,
Yes.
And I always think, when I think of Boston, I think about that American flag being used as a bayonet by this dude trying to stab this black guy.
Wait a minute.
And
What was that, a riot or something?
that was over school busing, and there was like a
Oh, God.
protest.
That's
And the guy
right.
took the American flag. But that's my image of Boston, and obviously, the sports stories and stuff like that. I mean, you're coming from Shaker, you're getting along with everybody and stuff like that. Did you, come across that? Like, yo, this is
Absolutely. Yeah. That was,
Boston.
I guess that there was a third thing that I noticed. It
Yeah.
was like, wow, in Shaker and Cleveland, like dudes, like everybody's like this, or at least in my memory,
Right.
it was, but there, not so. And it was kind of jarring.
Mhm.
The other thing is, I also like to say this is not true and accurate, but like I didn't know anybody who was Catholic, well, like in Shaker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Neither of you guys are Catholic, right?
No,
I didn't know anybody.
No.
And in
nothing.
in Boston, it's like all like, segregated and Irish Catholic and Italian. Yeah. So yeah, jarring.
Yeah.
For sure.
Wow.
For sure.
So, at your time there at Berkeley, was it like a 2-year program or a 4-year
4 years.
program?
Yeah,
4
Bachelor
years.
of Music. I went for 4
Wow.
years. And at the time, I don't know if this is still the case. But at the time, there was a rather low like graduation rate.
Mm.
Like a lot of people like dropped out before they made it through, before they graduated. I mean, a lot of people like were like, okay, I have enough. I have enough to go off and like be a professional musician now, or
Mhm.
engineer, or arranger, or whatever they were going to do, and they would drop out. I like to say that I graduated because I never got around to dropping out. I just kept with it, kept going.
Yeah.
Were
And
you involved with bands, and what was your focus while you were there?
okay, so I got there, and so when I was, in high school, I was like, yeah, I'm a good drummer. I'm a good musician. I'm good. I got there and I was like, oh my God, I suck. I suck. I did. And
Humble.
so like when I got there, I dedicated myself to, all right, I'm gonna get good. That is why I'm here. I'm going to learn to be a good drummer or a great drummer. And I worked really hard. Like the whole vibe there was woodshedding. If you were going to be a player,
And what is woodshedding? What is that?
Woodshedding is when you lock yourself in the woodshed and the practice room and practice for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. You practice all night or all day.
Wow.
And so that's what I did. I mean, I wasn't practicing for 8 hours at a time, but like that was the whole vibe. Like amongst the players, the people who wanted to play, you had to woodshed, especially if you sucked, which I did. And which a lot of people did. A lot of guys and girls like showing up at Berkeley. I mean, you really learn like right away, like where you're lacking.
And are people telling you that? Are your instructors telling you that?
Yes. So I mean, well, the shitty ones, the mean ones.
Yeah.
But it was motivating for sure. I mean, and it's not to say that all of the teacher guidance there was rough and negative, but it was, you got your shit together. You had to get your shit together.
Yeah.
And then there was
that. I'm sorry to say. Was it like that movie Whiplash? Did you ever see that movie? I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Yeah. That
was a little that was an extreme exaggeration.
Okay.
But yeah, it was kind of that vibe, like you come in here and you like try and play in this band, you better, if you can't cut it, then either you're gonna be out, you're not gonna make it, or we're gonna vibe you into cutting it, And so yeah, that was an extreme exaggeration, but yeah, it was kind of the vibe. And for me, there was a certain point.
I'm going to kill that dog. Go ahead.
Nah, it's fine. My dogs are going to be barking next.
There
was a certain point, like in the second year, like third semester, where I was like practicing a lot. I was like woodshedding, like every night, sitting in there, and there was a certain point where it was almost like, like there's this like flow that was not there before. That is there now. It was almost like one day I got it. And that was sort of like my breakthrough. And after that, I sort of like turned pro.
Wow.
Like started playing like in bands there, and everything was in school. And then it was like the year after that I like went out and started playing pro gigs, and have been ever since. So that was
So let's you're out of school, and let's talk about how did you migrate into Razor and Tie?
Okay,
and then clear up this myth, or is it a myth?
Okay.
About the bouncing ball over the lyrics. Did you create that?
What, at Razor and Tie?
What, Razor and Tie, or any part of your journey within the music industry? Because I heard somebody saying that Dave Richman, he created the the bouncing ball over the lyrics that you would see in some of the music videos. Now, is that totally off base or crazy?
Unless it's another fact that I forgot. Then no, did not come up with that.
Okay.
But but the migration, it was a migration so I graduated from Berkeley, graduated from music school, and I went pro. I was working at a music store, big music store. It was good good day gig.
Yeah.
Got deals on sticks and heads,
Yeah.
and I was playing gigs 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And I was still broke. Although I wasn't broke. I mean, I guess at the time I thought I was like, man, this is great. I'm making tons of money, hand over fist. But it was like dog shit.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
playing 5 nights a week, working 5 days a week. And so I did that for a few years, like in Boston. And, like I took any gig. If it paid, I did it. Still, I still do. So, but eventually, I was going to say, like, eventually I knew that these gigs were dead end. They weren't really. I mean, there were some opportunities there. Like I played in some bands that like later went on to get record deals, but it was sort of going nowhere. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to move to New York. I had a girlfriend who lived here in New York. I had met her there in Boston, and then she lived here, and I was going to move. I was going to move to New York, and it was like this big, like really, really scary decision to make, because I was also thinking, like, I'm going to get a real job. I'm going to not stop playing, but I'm not going to move to New York and like be a pro drummer. I'm going to get a real job, because wouldn't be able to make enough playing to live here. So I get down here. This was in 93.
Okay.
And somehow I worked a couple like cruddy gigs, cruddy day jobs for a while, and then somehow like got hired at Razor and Tie. And
what is Razor and Tie?
Razor and Tie was a record label.
Okay.
I like to say it was a record label when there was a record business.
Yes. And who were some of the bands on that label?
So Razor and Tie, like so many things that I find myself involved with, had an Ohio connection. One of the principals, one of the owners, was a Columbus guy, Cliff Chenfeld, who so there was a strong like Ohio vibe with this record label. Razor and Tie was sort of like an East Coast version of Rhino Records.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Rhino Records did like a lot of like reissues, compilations. I mean, I guess they had some new current artists, but it was mostly about compilations and reissues, and that's what Razor and Tie did. And at the time, like there was a ton of stuff that you could, there were like vaults to be mined and reissued from all the major labels. And we actually reissued a lot of Ohio stuff. Michael Stanley Band. He put out a bunch of we put about a bunch of Michael Stanley's like contemporaneous, like current stuff at the time. But it was all over the map. I mean, like, you name it. If they thought it would sell, they would put it out. But the way that Razor and Tie really made money, and this maybe this is where your bouncing ball story comes from. They had something called the 70s Preservation Society. They would put out these compilations on CD, and and put them on late night TV. Actually, it wasn't always late night. They put it on TV. They would make a commercial. It would be like, oh, greatest hits of the 70s from the
Promos.
70s Preservation Society. And they'd put it on like make an infomercial or a TV commercial. And this stuff would sell millions of people would buy this stuff. So I keep saying we 70s, 80s, disco, country, like they found all these like different like ways, angles of making compilations. They make a TV commercial and put it on TV, and like 1 million people would buy it.
Was it like the Time Life thing?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, because I have that on permanent reel just to watch the old videos and listen to the songs. I keep, that's my background entertainment. You know, some people run Scarface. I run Time Life.
So they put out these compilations, and they got, I mean, these like they got rich. I mean, this company, like in the end, it was like 100 people working there. I ended up working there for almost 20 years.
Wow.
But the funny thing is, like working on what we call the label side. I mean, we ended up signing like new artists. Who did we put out? I mean, like, again, they would throw like a ton of stuff at the wall, like, you know, like put out 10 new artists. They'd sign 10 bands, and like 9 of them would sell nothing, and like 1 of them would be successful. But I mean, I guess that's how the record business was.
Cross collaboration.
And
so
you were more part of the strategy part of it.
I ran the production department. I know I did not. I was not in marketing. I'm not a marketing person. Okay. I got the product made. You know, artwork, mastering, manufacturing, and in that time, in that almost 20 years of working there, I mean, there were probably like 1,000 releases crossed my desk.
Wow.
And I was still playing, but just for fun.
Okay.
Played in bands for fun, and working on that side of it. On the label side, you saw like how hard it could be for artists who signed a record deal. And what I ended up saying after a while was like, you know, some of these artists signing record deals ruined their lives.
Yeah.
Terrible being a signed artist for a lot of them, for most of them. You know, you're signing away your rights, you're signing away your music, and
you're just happy to have a record deal because, wow, I made it. You know, I've got someone that signed me.
But it's really not a lot of the times.
Industry rule 480, as Tribe Called Quest talks about. Yeah, because I remember us talking. I might have been at MTV at that time, but
that's right, Gabe.
Yeah, and I was doing stuff on the side with the labels, and I think we were talking about doing something with you, or I was trying to do something with you at Razor and Tide, like those promo spots or something like that. So
So I don't know. I mean, the bouncing ball.
Yeah,
maybe they put that in one of their commercials or something. I mean, it sounds like something they would do.
Yeah, and I wish I could remember who had said that. That, you know, maybe it'll come to me at the most random moment. But
I remember that from Casper the Friendly Ghost. You remember? You'd watch that, and then the bouncing ball would teach you the words.
The most random thing. Oh, Dave Richman, he created the bouncing ball.
I wish.
I
wish I'd be rich.
Yeah.
Well, you're rich men, so hey, you know, you're born into it.
Mm-hmm.
So then, you know, after Razor and Tie, man, 20 years almost. Wow.
Yep.
How did you segue into, you know, doing your passion full time?
Yeah, so basically I got spit out of that. I mean, I was there for so long. Got spit out, laid off, whatever. And I've been playing in this band here in New York City. This was what we came to be called as the original punk rock heavy metal karaoke band.
Did you create that genre? I guess
we we did not create it, but we were the first to sort of have success with it. And when I say success, I mean, so we heard it was someone else who had done it, who had done, I guess it was just punk rock karaoke. This was in 1999. And someone said, someone did this punk rock karaoke thing. It's a band without a singer, and people come up and sing front the band like it's karaoke, but with a real band. And we, a couple friends and I, put a little band together, and we were going to do one karaoke gig on a Monday night at Arlene's Grocery.
Yes, I remember Arlene's. Yes,
yeah, still there.
Oh. Wow, good.
Lower East Side, and
the whole area is transformed.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
So we played this one gig there, and it was like mayhem, packed. And so they booked us in there for the next week, and we came back again the next week, mayhem, packed. And so we ended up playing every Monday night for 5 years there, and it was like packed and sold out every night. So I was getting my playing fix with the karaoke band, and then it started to spread, and now there's karaoke bands everywhere. But it was like playing in front of a packed club every week sort of like reminded me like, oh, I really like playing drums.
Right.
And so it kept going. Yeah. I mean, that band ended up going for like 15 years. Wow. Even though it kind of sucked. And then when I was spit out of Razor and Tie, it's like, I want to, go for playing again, get some real gigs. And so I ended up having to quit the karaoke band to make it happen. Like sometimes like a new door is not going to open until you close one.
Yeah. What do you give up in order to get?
Yeah. So that I had to get out of that. And so since then I've just been, have drums will travel, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'll play any gig that pays.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
So is it, your gigs like word of mouth? Or is there like electronic bulletin board,
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't really answer ads or anything. It's like, let it come to me. Yeah. I just the thing that I just finished, and hopefully this is going to continue. I just played Dave Hill's off-Broadway show. Do you know who Dave Hill is?
No, I'm not familiar.
Cleveland-based comedian, musician. I mean, he's in New York City now. Okay. He's been on some TV shows and does his comedy thing all around the world. And he had an off-Broadway comedy music show that I played with him. And hopefully that's going to go on the road.
Oh, nice.
Or go somewhere else or be extended. But it's funny because he's like Cleveland guy, Dave Hill, but I didn't know of him when, obviously this was years ago. I didn't know him when we were there, and like a lot of Cleveland people don't like you don't know who he is, but he's a guy, and it's cool. It's cool. Like we had an all Cleveland band when we played that show the other week, as like the bass player was a dude who came in from Cleveland to do it. So always got to have an Ohio connection in whatever.
I think that's what's funny about our town of Cleveland. I mean, you have this whole amazing cross section of musicians or actors and doing things in other places, and yet, some of them are not known or amplified enough in their hometown.
Yep.
So
I think it's true for most of the art world. If you're too close to the action, you're probably trying to emulate it too much. But if you're far enough from it, you can take what you can from it and add a little bit more of yourself into it, because you're not close enough to really steal it.
Yeah.
And I see that in the design world, especially. A lot of people come from Cleveland and they end up other places because they weren't on the premise trying to copy it
Right.
verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also too, I feel like Cleveland, to its detriment, is very provincial in a lot of ways.
Is it?
Yeah, I feel like in certain lanes it's like that. Yeah. And there's a musician that's back there from our class who's he's making the rounds right now. I mean, has an amazing resume, and it's been slow to get booked gigs, and
in
yeah,
town.
in town.
You talking about Cats?
Not Cats. We're talking about Quentin Rubin.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a classic. It's a classic. It's not about originality. You have to go away and come back.
Yeah.
It's like London or the States. People that are in Cleveland's a classic rock R&B. I remember I was trying to have a party in Michigan, a Halloween party, and I was playing stuff from my Cleveland memories. It was too old. It was way too old.
Yeah.
It was too dusty.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
my friend James Longs, he's got a band which is an international band, and it's called Morning of Black Star. They work regular 9-to-5 jobs here, and then gosh, I forgot the guy. The guy's world renowned. He creates his music on the fly. Black guy. He's in his 80s, and he just did an album with the REM singer, the lead singer of REM,
Michael Stipe.
Michael Stipe. Yeah. So this guy comes and takes James's band around the world. And then James comes back home and they're just doing their 9-to-5 gigs, trying to figure out how to get away to get to the next gig. And they're recording, and Wired magazine gave them a great write-up. And during the pandemic, the Gorillaz said they were one of their favorite up-and-coming artists. But it's too original.
What's it called? Morning what?
Morning, M-O-U-R-I, Morning, MOURNING ABLK Star. They've got 7 albums out. It's on.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, they're on
Check it out.
Apple, and all the streaming stuff. So
there you go. Now my dog's barking. You hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna do it. I'm downstairs in the bedroom. I was gonna do it upstairs in the living room with the window open, and then Gabe, you could have heard Brooklyn. I mean, the noises. I mean, it's like.
So how do you like New York? I mean, you have all the boroughs, and they're almost like different little countries or cities. Is that?
I mean, the neighborhoods are different countries and cities. So the funny thing is, I love it. And here's the funny thing. So I came here in 93. So 31 years I've lived here. And after a while, I was like, man, I got to get out of here. Get out of the city. And I moved upstate New York. Because I love, like, we had gone on some vacations upstate, like Woodstock, Catskills. You ever been there?
I've been to Woodstock. Did Woodstock '94. When
was that in Woodstock though?
It was, approximately around. Yeah,
it was on the base
farm.
Yeah,
that's right. Upstate New York is really cool. Woodstock is really cool, and I had an opportunity. This was sort of like pandemic move. Had an opportunity to move up there.
Yeah.
In when was it? 3 years ago. And I was like, this is great. I am never coming back to New York City. I mean, I'll come back to play gigs.
Right. But you need that safety valve.
I hit the wall, man.
Yeah.
I hit the wall after like a year and a half. I never thought I would say it or feel this way, but I mean, it's just too quiet, too boring. And so I came back. I mean, didn't give up this place. Same
Yeah, good,
place, same
good.
house.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
And it was sort of a traumatic event that led to my return. My father-in-law died, and we had to like deal with that, and
Sorry
that
about that.
it got me back here. But I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love Brooklyn. I love New York City. I mean, as much of a pain in the ass so many things are here. I mean, Gabe, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
I miss it sometimes. I do.
Sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I hit my wall, a few years back, when I went out west. But, I come back sporadically.
Mhm.
But usually it's for like a day or two. I mean, I did a short film up there back in 2022 for a week, but that was enough for me. And but
Really?
yeah, but I do miss it. I do miss it at times. And if I were to go back, it would have to be the right. It just have to be the right situation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I count myself as very lucky. You mean
yeah,
that we got like a a nice brownstone, nice
yeah,
street. I mean, you can't park your car on it, and there's
yeah.
noise all night. But
Opposite side street parking.
I count what?
Uh, that was always. I mean, I just think about that because that was like the bane of my existence. It's like, damn, I got to remember to move the car to the other side and
It's
double park it
worse.
back.
It's worse than ever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
awful. I mean, that sucks. And
You
so
know,
many other things suck.
yeah. But
But
there's the
still,
other things. Yeah,
yep. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's like I don't know. I mean, as when I came back from upstate and felt so happy and good, and said to myself, man, I mean, I just feel like I belong here. I mean,
yeah.
like as improbable
Mhm.
as that sound to myself.
Mhm.
Right, right.
Kind of think I belong here. I don't
No,
know.
you do. I see it. I mean, I see it, and just, peeping you out on the internet every so often over the
Yeah.
years and stuff like that. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, he's, as, down by law. I mean, my time in Brooklyn, I always would say, yeah, I'm Brooklyn by way of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then if it got into deeper conversations, and then I would say Shaker,
Right.
and some people would be like, Where's that?" or whatever. But yeah, Brooklyn is the borough.
Yep.
Brooklyn is the borough. Yeah,
How are you dealing
100%.
with the Yankees fans, and are you into following the sports world at
No,
all?
not these days. I mean, like there was a time that you know, that I did, but I mean, good for them.
Mhm.
Although someone did ask me the other day, like in a time like this, Yanks or Guardians, and I said Guardians, even though I'm not following it at
Yeah,
all.
Mhm.
Um, or Browns. That dude has an Achilles injury now,
Yeah.
as of
yeah, it
today,
looked like
right?
it. Yeah, when he fell out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was always a Mets fan.
Really?
Like, yeah, like I had the required in New York baseball hat and
Of
all
course.
that. But I was always a Mets fan. And I think because growing up in Shaker, we had cable and we had WOR TV
TV.
Channel
Yeah.
9, and they would broadcast, from New York and New Jersey in the Mets games. So,
Mhm.
Daryl Strawberry
Oh
and
yeah.
Mookie and all those guys. So that became my team more so than the Indians at that time
Really?
because
Because of cable TV.
New York was
Interesting.
this magical jewel that I was like, I want to go there one day.
Yep.
And yeah,
Yeah,
so
we had New York, we had Atlanta, the Superstation where I used to
yeah,
follow the
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Braves.
yeah,
And
Ted
then
Turner.
we
TBS.
had the Chicago stations. And then when Jordan got really good and he came back, they weren't allowing us to see we could see the whatever that channel was.
Yeah, I mean the rise of cable. I mean, I think about MTV. Like we got that in our house, and
Yep.
that was a big deal. I mean, watching music videos and
Oh,
stuff.
huge. I mean, that's all all night, man.
Yeah, 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 and yeah,
Well, I
1981.
mean, you say you miss New York sometimes.
Yeah,
Um, I miss Shaker. I
yeah,
mean, it's like for me now, it's like ancient history,
yeah,
but I miss it. I miss
yeah,
it. I can't
Let,
wait to go back for a visit.
yeah.
well, let me ask you this.
Hmm.
So, we talked about one of the reasons for the show is, and we use this analogy, this base camp analogy, and going through the Shaker experience, and with cross pollination of cultures, and you being Jewish, and
Hmm.
us being black.
Hmm.
How what's your view of the world right now? How do you see it different from maybe the way that you saw it when you were a kid,
Well,
or
I
say,
mean, I guess so. I mean, I said earlier, um, living here, being here, I again feel like really lucky, really lucky to like to to be able to, you know, live in Brooklyn, in New York City, in the United States. That like life is secure here for the most part. Knock on wood, and that's how I felt. I remember feeling that way
Hmm.
as a kid in Shaker. Like this is the best. This is the best place to be because, like, yeah, I'm Jewish, but like, like all these different people who who look different than me, or he has a Christmas tree, and that guy's Asian, the guy down the street, and so it it was like a I don't know. To me, it was like a blessing,
Hmm.
like living in that,
Yeah,
it, living and being brought up in a place like that. I mean, is it still like that?
you
I mean,
know,
yeah,
I don't know. Like I lived there briefly from like 2018, no, yeah, 2018 to 2021, and half of that I lived downtown, near downtown.
really.
Half of it I lived in Shaker. So from my vantage point, it was hard to tell. Like I paid more attention to like the decaying infrastructure that is happening around Shaker. Like for
There's decaying infrastructure.
yeah, like the roads in certain
Yeah, I
certain
guess you're right.
parts, and then
Yeah.
like the Lee Road Rapid Stop. I remember that was a big deal when they built that,
Hmm.
remodeled it, and then but that whole facade that was like laid in place back in the '80s, it's nearly looks like a ruin, and it's
Wow.
somewhere on the list of capital improvements and might get done like 3 or 4 years from now. So for me at least, the brief time I was there, I from a visual standpoint at times I saw this kind of like slow decay,
Wow.
as it related to, you know, houses or certain infrastructure and stuff like that. I mean, student wise, I couldn't really say. Like I'll share a story like when the pandemic was just jumping off, I was on one of the Shaker pages on Facebook, and then I posted an article about it was the class of 2020, and they were going to have a protest that because they couldn't walk across stage for graduation because of the pandemic.
Okay.
And I had commented like boo fucking who, like whatever. But it was almost like, the Shaker suburban mob like came after me on
Did they?
yeah, because like, how dare you? These students had worked hard and everything, but it was just like, do you not realize it's a fucking pandemic?
Wow.
And
Wait,
then
were these like parents?
these were parents, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then so they had a little protest at the school administration building between Woodbury and Onaway. So there
Mhm.
were some students there with signs, and they had the local news out. But
Oh
it
my
was
God.
just so I didn't. It was just so whack, man. It was just
Wait, but so was that like a like an anti-restrictions, like don't restrict
Yeah.
us. Dude.
Yeah. I mean, it
Oh,
was
all
just,
right.
and it was at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I think the way the information was coming through, it was just kind of like there was a disconnect. Like, it's a pandemic, And
Yeah,
sadly, many people died. And I think that they didn't realize, like, oh, at that time, you're going to have all your aunties and uncles and families show up, and you want them to catch COVID by
yeah,
chance, And to me, COVID was like a designer drug. I mean, it hit everybody differently, and some people more
yeah.
worse than others.
Hmm.
So yeah, for me, that was very kind of troubling in a
Wow,
way,
wow. That's wow.
So
Yeah,
I think in general, the world and specifically this country is disconnected,
yes,
and with a lot of distractions and a lot of uh, insecurities and instability and all those things. Because I don't think people know what the truths are and what
yep.
where the information is, and can't, and aside from that, being able to find common sense and to
Hmm.
use critical thinking through a lot of this stuff. Everything is so obtainable. It doesn't take a lot of work to find things, or going on the internet, or jobbing something out, or letting AI do stuff for you. There's that experience that you learn things from the ground up, and you understand how everything works. Most people end up thinking, "Oh, I got a check from a certain someone. Have the he must have the best outlook for me. He must care about me." You know, everything is so just disheveled and scattered around and in such disarray. No one knows what to believe with deep
Yep,
fakes and
yep.
the messaging, and you can lie anytime that you want about anything, and people are so apt to believe it because everyone is drunk from clicking online. There are no real
You just,
relationships anymore.
yep. I mean, I hate to say it. I talked to ChatGPT a lot. Um,
yeah.
so supportive and helpful.
I look
It,
at it, it's a tool, and
yeah.
it's all about a person's comfortability in embracing new technologies and tools. To me, it's
Mhm.
like the printing press. When the
Yeah,
printing press came out, it was a game changer. When the
right.
iPhone came out, it was a game changer. So again, it's all about what is that person's comfortability with change and how they view it as a tool.
Yep.
Um, for better or for worse, yeah, Chat GPT, Gemini it's being incorporated in the arts and
Yeah.
in ways. And so it's just a matter of like, okay, how do you manage this
Yeah.
so that people get their just due? Because, I mean, there's always the debate about that stuff scraping pre-existing things and everything else. So, I mean, I think it's if we come from a literary foundation,
Yeah.
before the internet, and then we are witnesses to the beginning of the internet.
Hmm.
So our perspective is going to be far different than, like, kids growing up
Oh God,
with
you
all
kidding
the
me?
digital stuff
Yep.
without a lot of that reference and context, and that gets built upon, and so forth and so on. So
Yep.
yeah, it's
How about the music industry? When you look at music,
I mean, there, I there kind of isn't a music industry
yeah, right.
mhm,
anymore. I mean, I remember like
Uh,
when I was at Razor and Tie, it's kind of like the heyday,
yes,
like the 90s,
yeah,
like the late 90s was like like literally the heyday, you get to like go out to dinner,
yeah.
go out to
Expense
lunch.
accounts.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
expense accounts, went to the Grammys.
yeah.
I mean, now I mean, I don't even know, like I don't even know what record labels there are anymore. I mean, like the majors.
Yeah.
My thing is like I just find like my gigs, my playing I just, find someone, artists who can make money playing live.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's still like a market there. There's like a live scene like in this whole country,
Yeah.
and just got to find it.
What do you think
Find
about the product? Has the product suffered from technology and how talent is found?
That's a good question. I mean, I think there's certainly like a lot more music that you can listen to. I mean, it's not like you have like to like back in the day where you had to like go into a recording studio and record something and like press it or manufacture it to get heard. Now it's
Right.
like
That's a good thing. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, like there's still it's you gotta like cut through. There's a lot more to cut through to find the good stuff.
Hmm.
Right.
I mean, there's still tons, a shit ton of good stuff.
Yeah.
You got to stay curious, You
Yeah.
got to stay curious.
Yeah.
For me personally, like my music education or ongoing music education, as I call it, I get from the BBC, like Radio 6, various
Really?
DJs. Yeah, like Giles Peterson, Benji B, for that type of music I'm into. And there are others, but I know it's like I'm not going to hear that here. I may not hear it on a college station, but I know that I can find good stuff through these other, BBC radio channels and their subsequent DJs and stuff.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah. I mean, they have like so many various genres, future sounds and stuff like that. But I think, like anything, like I miss the record stores, even though some are making a comeback, and going to Tower Records was an experience, or Amoeba.
Yep.
And, so, you try to reimagine that in this kind of digital age, I feel like in some ways,
Well, but I mean, it's pretty cool how easy it is to make music. I actually had my own one-man project going a few years ago, where I was able to record and play everything myself here. Actually, I had to go to a studio to cut drums, but now I could cut drums here.
Yeah.
In the basement, and like made a whole album like by myself here.
Right.
And that's cool. That's cool as hell.
Yeah. No, I mean, that would have been unheard of back in.
I need to go back to doing that. It's like a wasted opportunity having stopped that.
I gotta. Do you have kids?
Step kids. I mean, I've been with them for 15 years. They're in college now.
So
kids.
So watching them grow up, what differences did you see in your experience growing up, and maybe what they were dealing with and how they were dealing with it?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, like once I became a parent, that was when I really sort of realized like how good of a parent my mom was. And how like the I won't say sheltered, but the lucky and blessed upbringing that I had in Shaker Heights. And so that's what I tried to bring to them. Like I tried to make it, I didn't try to spoil them, but I tried to make it so like they, I mean, there's like uncertainty, there's like uncertain shit that happens like in here in life. And I tried to like shield them from that and try to make it like, make it like as okay and easy for them with the challenges that they had that exist.
Do you see their challenges being more formidable than yours were at that time?
Yeah. I mean, they both, I mean, growing up in New York City.
In New York, man.
And both of them, both of them had have learning disabilities, and so we had to like, kind of like get through that, get around that. And we did. We are. I mean, they're both in college now.
Right on.
I mean, here's the thing. Long story short, what I said, like once they got into like middle school and like the normal like middle school stuff started happening, I had to like choose the battles.
Yeah.
And in the end, maybe this is like being like overly simplistic, but what I said was, said this to Andrea and to myself, like, okay, we're gonna choose our battles here. Like to me, if their grades are good and if they're not getting arrested, cool.
Yeah.
Not gonna like try and like,
yeah.
Not like tapping anybody's phone or like, spying and like, let me smell your breath or
Yeah.
running drug tests or like none of that. Grades are good and the cops aren't picking you up.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
So that was sort of like my philosophy, and it still is.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, Shaker was like a lot easier place to grow up than here.
Oh man, listen,
sure.
You and my other Brooklyn peeps that have kids, that raise kids up in, Brooklyn or New York in general,
Yep.
I give it to you all because it makes in a lot of ways it makes Shaker like Mayberry RFD.
Oh God.
Yeah,
kidding me?
So
they loved it. When I brought them back when they were kids and I brought them back, like my son was like, he just like to be able to like ride a bike like around the block. He was like, it was like heaven.
Yeah. Yeah. And not have to go to, stay to Prospect Park if that's where you go to ride the bike. Yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah. Loved it. Yeah. So yeah. No, I totally hear you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, man. What who would you like to see on this show?
That's a good question.
We have Rob Berg's coming on next week.
Is he?
Yes.
That's great. That's great. Can't wait.
And we have Todd in January coming on.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, those are two dudes that I'm still in touch with.
Yeah.
And we'd love to have a band summit. We'd like to at some point, maybe
that's a good idea too.
Further into the new year, talk about the bands and your experiences and the battles or what have you.
Yeah, Tim Elliott, Rip, man. I mean, that would have been a good one. I went to his. I went to his. I came back for his memorial service, his celebration of life, and
that was a rough one.
It was, and I I went to that, and I was like, man, it's going to be inundated with Shaker people. And I go there. It was like at this church on in Lakewood, his church. Oh, and I get in there, and I saw his brother Dan and his dad and his mom, but no one else that I knew. And I texted my mom, and I was like, "There is no one else, no one I know here."
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you know you can watch the service? I watched the service online. I watched his brother speak. At least I watched that part. Very moving. Very.
Yeah, I got up and spoke. I'll go back and watch that.
Yeah, I somehow I caught it. I don't know if it was through one of the Facebook channels, but I remember specifically watching his brother talk about him and being a Memphis performer and all that stuff. Yeah,
he told some really funny stories too.
Yeah, it was great.
Well,
have you seen it, Gabe? I thought maybe you shared it with me, but maybe I found it on my own. The celebration of life.
No, not Tim Elliott's. I did share Ty Bassett's when he passed away last year.
Yeah, I saw some of his too. Yeah. Oh, rest in peace, all of you Byron alumni. Mr. Baird just passed.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the biology teacher. Yeah.
Wow,
so that was.
I mean, when we had our reunion this past July. It was very yeah, it was very sobering. Is that the word? Like we read off names, and I mean, just you forget how big our class was, and I
Yep.
think we probably had at least about 40 something people,
Really?
through the years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it puts like the whole notion, for me at least, the whole notion of like reunions in perspective. Like
Yep.
as we get older, I mean, fuck this every 10 years. Like, it could be every 2 years or something of that nature, or whatever. People feel so compelled, but this whole notion of every 10 years as we get
Yeah, I
older.
mean, every 10 years, it's like people are going to be like, that's a lot of age in
Yeah,
between.
yeah,
Indigent.
yeah. So
I'm going to a bunch of concerts and I'm seeing people in walkers and
Yeah.
that
Oh, I mean, a lot of the shows that I play,
mhm.
like, I mean, I was playing in a Led Zeppelin tribute band.
wow.
Was it the ladies, right?
Yeah, I
Yes.
got to spit out of that too because I'm a dude.
Oh,
That was a really good gig.
yeah, they rock, man.
I played with
I
them
saw
for
the
like
video.
a year and a half. But
Yeah.
like those shows, I'd walk out on stage. It'd be like some like 1,000-seat theater. Walk out on stage and it would like just a sea of old faces.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we're old.
But these people partied hard then and never stopped.
That's
because
right.
And intermission.
Yep.
Well, first of all, they're the last to their seats, even though the show starts exactly on time.
Yes,
they're the last to their seats, and they are still drinking like fish. And their hair is the same way that it was. They're wearing jeans and a leather jacket.
Yep.
So I don't pity them.
No,
they paid for that.
Yep.
But
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got to give it to you, man. I mean, in terms of longevity, and especially at such an early age, having that foundation. Yeah, people get their little drink on here or there, do little things, but also just the respect that you have for, yourself and your craft and the consistency,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, like you got, I mean, if you want to like keep it up, you gotta keep it together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's a rarity for any of us to find what we truly love and what we're really enthusiastic about, that we're able to pursue it with our life and with all that we can, and the environment allows us to, whether our parents did, whether our immediate family allows us to, and just to have the drive to do it and to keep learning. I mean, that's why you look so good. Because
thanks. Well, I feel like blessed, lucky to have had, to have had that and still have it, and the opportunity, and
that's part and parcel, man. Hey, have you caught? I've seen it, and they've come through Rochester. I know they've come through New York. Have you seen the Jason Bonham Led Zeppelin show?
I have not seen it live, but I am familiar with what he's doing there. That's cool. I mean,
yeah, it's really cool.
I think like if anybody has a right to like put the Bonham name and to play it, it's him. I mean,
he describes every he's gone through. He's every cataloged version, and he picks.
He's done the work.
Yeah, he tells the story about why he picked this version of Whole Lot of Love and what era it came from and why he likes it and why his dad played it a certain way.
Oh, I got to check that out.
You got to see that.
All right.
He goes through the whole catalog. And
I've seen individual songs and I'm like, yeah, cool, He'll
say this was performed at the Kabuki Theater in Japan in 1975. And my dad
that's the version we're doing.
This. And then they go into it. Yeah, I got to go see
that's
that.
Good.
Again.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that as a scholar of John Bonham, I mean, that's knowledge that needs to be,
preserved.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for telling me that. I will check out the. I'll check that out.
What do you think about Cubby O'Brien's playing?
Monster.
Yeah.
Who is
Monster.
that? Who is that?
Mouseketeer, right?
Yeah, yeah. Play, Cubby,
Oh,
play.
Cubby. Oh, yeah. How about Karen Carpenter?
Also a monster.
Yeah.
Well,
That-
the joke is that in whatever year it was, 1976, which was a year. Speaking of John Bonham, 1976 was a year that Led Zeppelin did not put out an album.
Okay.
I believe, and in the Playboy magazine music poll, Karen Carpenter was the number one drummer, and John Bonham was number two. And it was because Led Zeppelin didn't put an album out that year.
Right,
So they
right.
and
Yeah.
the Carpenters did.
Yeah.
And so Carpenters were just more famous.
I didn't
And
even equate her to being a drummer until Questlove started putting out videos. I was unaware.
What?
I just always saw her singing and her brother playing the piano. And I'm a Carpenters fan. I just never.
Yeah, no, she was the real deal. But in as the story goes, Bonham was like pissed that she had gotten the number one, and then like something like he taught Jason how to play like a Carpenter's song, and he was like, even my 8-year-old son can play that stuff.
Well, here's the thing. You know what Jason said about his dad? His father asked him who his favorite drummer was. He said Stuart Copeland.
Wow. Yeah. Stuart Copeland.
He plays. Doesn't he have his setup all backwards or something?
Not backwards. It's like it's. I mean, he's got like, sort of unorthodox, like angles and like little bits and pieces of the kit. But no, that's another guy who's still got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What style of drummer are you? Who would you relate yourself?
Okay, so my thing is
are you a pocket drummer
yes,
like
I
Ringo?
am.
Yeah, which is very tough, I hear.
Well, the thing is, like, you learn, like, I mean, the drummer, and I tell all my students this. I've done a lot of teaching over the years too, and the thing that I've learned to impart to them, because they're all rock drummers, rock pop drummers. The drummer is the clock. He's the timekeeper. So that's what you have to. That's the job. And that's what you have to excel at. And actually, it's funny. My wife calls me a soldier of time.
Oh,
because
that's a good title, bro. That's a good title.
Because I have like a really good sense of like if you were to say like, hey, what time is it? I could guess what time it is. I have like a really good sense of like a second, a minute, an hour, a month, a year, and a beat.
That's great for editing.
So that's the sense that you have to really like hone as a drummer. And so that's the thing. Timekeeper, really loud, really hard, really loud. Like really just like make no mistake of what's happening here. Of what the beat is. And that's sort of like what I, have hung my hat on, keeping time.
Your hi-hat on.
Yeah. Keeping time. Just got to know where the beat is. Yeah.
I really liked your There It Is accompaniment, and that it stayed in my head like the first time I played it, like throughout the day.
That song.
Yeah, yeah. But
Oh,
you playing it,
thanks.
Yeah, I mean, and the way you played it, I mean, it is infectious,
Oh my
So,
God.
was that Clyde or was that on the JB
I
track?
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
The funny thing is, okay, so that is
Where can I find that?
so live at the Apollo. Is that right, Gabe?
yeah. It might be live at the Apollo, but it's on his website, Davey.
Oh,
E-
my version.
I'm talking about
Your
your version.
version. Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Yeah,
Here's the funny thing. So that recording, the recording that I played to and that I loved, uh, is on a James Brown album called I think it's Mother Load,
Yeah, I
which
have
yeah,
that.
yeah,
The
and which is like
Fat
it's like a
Boy,
compilation.
Fat
It's a
Boy Slim did that compilation. You should get it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
Dave.
it's like
okay,
this live version, and it's like raucous, like the
yeah,
guy who's introducing him is like yelling, and the crowd's going nuts, and it's like rockin' raucous
yeah,
song, and that's the one that I played to,
yeah,
and so I tried to bring that raucous groove to it. They reissued or issued that that concert, that live at the Apollo concert, from which that song is taken from, and it's got a different mix. And I went and
oh,
listened to it, and they reissue the mix. It's so much calmer. I mean, it's still the same performance, and it's still him singing it
right,
and doing his
right,
thing, but the energy level is so much lower. I mean, it's still badass, it's still awesome, but with just like the different mix, it's like, wow, I played this like a freaking rock drummer, and this mix sounds like a funk drummer.
right.
But just goes to show you how different a mix can make
You
a
know, have,
sound.
have you
Yeah.
ever have you ever seen that documentary about the Wrecking Crew and the whole story behind them?
No,
Oh, you
no.
got to see that.
I love those documentaries about the studio musicians.
And there's a new one on Hulu that are the musicians that were for Carole King,
Oh, that's
more
the
of the
Wrecking Crew,
yacht
isn't it?
rock.
It-
No, no, no. This is
oh,
another crew. But the Wrecking Crew had Glenn Campbell. Anyway, those were studio musicians that were called in to basically, like Brian Wilson,
yep.
didn't use the Beach Boys.
No, it
He
was
went
all the
straight to the Wrecking Crew. And
yep.
these are jazz players that felt that it was beneath them to play rock music.
Yeah, but
And they wouldn't even tell people that they were playing the rock music.
but that was their day job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like, that was they go to the studio every day, play like 3 sessions. That was that, and then get paid.
Right. And they would fix everything.
Yep.
And then they would create the orchestration of all of it. Well, there's another one. When I find it, I'll send it to you. I
Okay.
just saw it was the people that backed James Taylor and Carole King and
Mhm.
of that genre, like in the '70s, that what we call yacht rock now, I
Mhm.
guess. I gotta
Well, I
watch
mean,
that.
the other good thing about being a studio musician, and this is what I wanted to do when I was at Berkeley. It's like that's what I want to do. I want to be
Mhm.
a studio musician. The other good thing was that you didn't have to go on the road. You didn't have to
Yes.
Right.
sleep in a friggin' hotel every night and sit on a bus or a car or whatever, which is kind of fun sometimes, but
It gets old.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you get in trouble being on the road.
Yes.
You start having kids that you don't want people to know about.
Right.
AKA Dave Grohl, which I
Right.
just heard about. Here's another fun fact. I just last week I went to see a Beatles tribute band. They were
Okay.
great. They were great, and because I saw Beatlemania, and that's became a. Are
Did
you
you see
familiar
that in
with that?
Cleveland?
Yes, in
Same.
'79.
Yep.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
Yeah, it
And
was great.
they got sued by the Beatles,
Oh my God.
and they had to pull it off Broadway. But
Really?
Marshall Crenshaw I think he
Yep.
was,
John
yeah,
Lennon.
yeah, John Lennon.
Okay,
So
Marshall Crenshaw. Marshall Crenshaw was on Razor and Tie.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
He
Well,
has
go on.
videos on
Go on. Let
MTV.
me go on about
Yeah.
your
That's what I
tribute.
was- Oh. So the Beatles, when they're at Shea Stadium, first of all, they didn't have speakers that had the technology to be able to play
Yep.
so that the music could be heard well. You know how long they played at Shea Stadium?
Well, like 20 minutes.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Wow.
20
Did not
minutes.
know.
And you probably couldn't hear them. I
You
remember,
couldn't. And they couldn't hear themselves.
yeah, like shout out to, and rest in peace to Louis Schechter. We went to go see Duran Duran in 86. And I was on the floor, couldn't hear a damn thing. Couldn't hear them at all. And I guess,
86?
yeah.
I wasn't at that show.
Mm.
I went to the Coliseum in 83, 2.
I think I saw that show.
That was
Snowstorm.
that was
Snowstorm driving back from the Coliseum.
yeah, but that was
Yeah.
the Tiger of the something in this Tiger or whatever.
7 and the Ragged Tiger.
That was the tour that I saw. So yeah.
I do remember some screams at that show. But that's why the Beatles quit touring.
Exactly.
Because they couldn't
yeah.
hear themselves. They're on stage playing and couldn't hear.
Yeah. Did you see the doc on Disney Plus?
Get
Did you
Back?
see-
Is that what
Yeah.
it's called?
Yeah.
I did. It's awesome.
I want that running while I'm doing something
Awesome.
creative every
Yep.
time. No, it's
Mhm.
I don't do music, but whenever I'm sitting in a room, I want that in the background
Yeah.
because you see creativity being
You see
born.
him come in and write Get Back right in front of you.
Yeah,
Mm.
it is
Awesome.
really good. Anyway, I digress. Sorry about that, but yeah.
We're all digressing.
And guess where we're at right now, Dave? You said you couldn't.
Well, I looked at the clock. I mean, it's 6:00, right?
It's 6:06.
Ooh.
21 seconds on the
How do we
beat.
do that?
Yes.
And when you asked me to do this, and I saw like all these podcasts running like 2 hours, like over 2 hours, I'm like, there's no way. I got nothing to say. I'm not gonna go to 2 hours. But look
And
at
And
that's
you
that.
what-
lied.
Yeah, and tell people because a lot of people don't think that they have anything to say. But man, we're going through your life right now. We're going through the drawers of your life and
This
peeling
is your
back.
life.
Yeah, there they are, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Dave, it's I'm glad. I'm so glad you came on. And
Thank you.
yeah,
for having me.
I'm gonna stay in touch. As a side note, did I ever send you my Led Zeppelin film?
No, I know you did that. That's about the
Okay.
theft, the
Yeah,
money.
yes. Yeah. I'll send you a
I would
link
love
to it.
see it. Yes.
Yes, I'll do that. Well, man, listen, you have a rest of a good Sunday. Yeah, man, just constant elevation, man. Keep it on the beat, on the one,
Right
on the
back at
two.
you. Right back at you.
All right, everybody who tuned in, we
Next
thank you.
week.
Yes.
Next week. Who do we got next week?
We got Rob Barrick next week.
I'll tune in for that.
Yes, Rob Barrick. And then the week after that, we have the Student Council on Race Relations.
Student Group on Race Relations, their
okay.
40th anniversary.
Score.
The first of their kind. They just celebrated their 40th anniversary along with our reunion, and they're going to have a lot of stories to tell.
Okay.
They were
And-
highlighted very much in the Laura, what's her name? Last name?
Meckler's book.
Beckler's book. So,
And,
definitely come back for that.
And that's November 3rd, and that's 2 days before, we see what the history of this country is going to be looking like for the next 4 years. So, anyway, standing on the verge, getting it on. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in.
How
As
do you
the
make the
tickers.
P-Funk sign? Is it a P like this, or
Oh, I
standing
don't
on
know.
the verge? Okay.
I don't know. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and check out our podcast on all the platforms except Apple. And Dave Richman, until next time,
Thank you.
we're out of here, everybody. Thank you. Let me see.